news to start the show as the bass drops on a Friday edition of Soccer Down Here. Atlanta United has announced its new academy director, Matt Lowry. He's replacing Tony Annan. Lowry's been there since July of 2016. Initially coached the U12s, moved up to the U15s, then moved up to the U19s. He's been the academy manager since January of 2019. He was also Tony Annan's assistant with the twos on an interim basis last season when Henry Apollo and Stephen Glass moved up to the first team. Matt has been, around not quite from day one with the academy, but very, very close. So this is, again, just like we talked about yesterday with Jack Collison, this is a natural progression that the academy has shown consistently. And Matt's a guy who came to Atlanta from the Richmond Strikers, which is one of the top clubs in Virginia. Played in college, was an assistant coach on the college side of things. He holds USSF A and UEFA B and EFCL licenses. He's got all of that. He did the EFCL is the French course that Tony Annan did and then Lowry did. Multiple Atlanta coaches have been part of this, part of the French Football Federation's partnership with MLS. He was also a big part of the individual development program. And if you go back to 2019, an article from The Athletic and Felipe Cardenas talking about youth development at Atlanta United and homegrown player development, Lowry was a big part of that individual development program that's been a huge factor in George Bellows' development, looking at very specific things to improve his strengths, improve the weaknesses, and make him a more well-rounded player. And it's been something that Tony Annan has demonstrated to other academies in MLS. There's a video from one of the Generation Adidas events where Tony's kind of walking through the IDP program. Matt Lowry was heavily involved in creating that. He will be speaking to the media in about 25 minutes. We're going to try to grab at least a bit of audio from that for you so you can hear from him. I did have a chance to reach out to Tony Annan, who, if you've listened to his podcast with us here on SDH, Tony has always spoken really, really highly of Matt and mentioned him many, many times and the work that he's put into the academy. So Tony said, Matt is a very bright young coach who has an amazing future. His philosophy on youth development will take Atlanta United's academy, or keep Atlanta United's academy moving forward in a very positive way and continue to produce great players. He is the ideal man to lead the academy. That is from the outgoing academy director, Tony Annan, to the incoming academy director, Matt Lowry. That's been announced this morning. John is still staring at cameras and trying to figure out audio. Thanks for your comments, John. Jared Smith, what do you think?
I'm just so tickled by today.
I'm not at all.
I know. I'm tickled by. Okay. Awesome news. It is that seamless transition you want, and it does speak well, I think, of both what Tony wanted and of the club to make that transition seamless and to bring in somebody that Tony thought highly of, so that you're continuing the trends that have been going in a very positive direction, not just with homegrowns, but with academy, as we've seen more and more kids come up. And I'm excited to see how it continues, because this is something that was always going to happen. Somebody's not going to stay an academy director forever, especially as Tony has continued to do so much good work with the club. That opportunity to take a step that he wants to take was going to come up. So you had to have somebody in mind to fill that spot afterward. And you've been able to do it pretty seamlessly. And I would imagine that, once a similar opportunity comes up, you have someone else in the pipeline waiting, and you keep it going, because that's the nature of it.
It's the nature of it, and I think it's a necessary part of it, because the philosophy guides it. And I think that's why, those initial hires were very important with the academy, because they set the foundation. But now the foundation is established, and people have to buy into the foundation and the Atlanta United way, which we've talked about a good bit, and what that identity and that DNA is of Atlanta United teams, Atlanta United players. But you also need fresh approaches, fresh looks at that, not to change that identity. I think this goes back to the whole thing we've talked about since Gabriel Heinze was hired about tactics versus philosophy. Tactics can change. The ways that the academy tries to develop players, they can introduce new initiatives, they can do things in a different way, they can change their training structure. There's all kinds of things with that. But the philosophy of the kinds of players, the kinds of teams Atlanta wants to produce, that's going to stay consistent. There's room for interpretation in it, and that's why we've seen, whether it's been Tata Martino, Frank de Boer, Gabriel Heinze, Scott Donnelly, Stephen Glass, Tony Annan, now Jack Collison coming in, now Matt Lowry coming in to be in these positions. We've seen variations, but they all fit in the same idea of the way the game is to be approached. So this is a continuation of that. And like Jarrett said, this is natural with, what we've already seen and what would make sense here with the academy manager stepping up to become the academy director when the academy director moves on. Two's coach moves on. The U17 coach moves up, which is what had happened previously. So this is where Atlanta United stands. Again, Matt Lowry will be speaking to the media here at 9:30. Hopefully we'll be able to grab just a little bit of audio for you. His quote from the press release this morning, he said, "This is a wonderful opportunity for our academy to continue the hard work and success that Tony Annan has built over the last 5 years. Our goal is to promote and celebrate the top young players in the Southeast, as well as help grow the game in Atlanta and the surrounding communities. Tony has set us up to succeed. Our staff is ready to continue his hard work." Sounds like it is all guns blazing at this point for Atlanta United's academy. They issued the breakdown of the coaching staff across the different age groups, and all of that is out there. Matt will have a really interesting year to, I think, see things kind of get back to normal, John, as like the youth game is edging back to what a normal schedule looks like, except you don't have the U.S. Soccer Development Academy anymore. You have MLS's next. So it's normal, but it's new, and it's an interesting time to be taken over in a role like this. John, you're talking and nobody can hear you. Jared, you want to take that one?
I'm just...
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
What we're going to do
I'm excited
here,
Yeah, go ahead.
No, what we're going to do here probably is put a picture of John up and call him at this point, because that seems to be the only way he can make things work. Go ahead on just the challenges, Jarrett, of a new time that's kind of getting back to what normal used to be, but it's going to be in a different structure because the DA's gone and MLS Next is kind of not being created out of thin air, but being created with some new things in mind.
It is. It's going to be a weird time. I'm curious to see how everybody handles kids coming out of the academy, getting time with this MLS Next, whatever this MLS D3 thing might be, compared to getting those minutes in USL. Because for me, there is something different about sending your 15-year-old kids out to play against other kids who might be up to 18 or 19 years old out of your academy versus having them play against, a 28-year-old professional who plays for an independent team. It's a different kind of matchup and it's a different challenge. And it's not to speak ill of, playing against other academies and, other different skill levels on that front. It's just, I do like the fact that you are challenging a lot of these kids, the Johnny Fortunes of the world. I'm not going to spend time listing off every academy kid who's played. I don't have that much time. We don't have an hour. You're giving them these challenges and this opportunity, and it is. I hope we continue to see that no matter how everything changes with the MLS, MLS Next D3 thing, however they want to do it. I hope we keep seeing them get this time against especially against these independent teams like you're going to see Sunday. you have Lou City coming into town for your first match with a new manager, and it's a Lou City team that 2 of the last 4 years they've won the league. I mean, they're in the final. They're deep in the playoffs every year. It is a really good example of a, especially recently, consistent independent club that has been a lot of fun to watch and can be really tough to match up with. It'll be a good challenge.
Yeah, and we should get into that a little bit too before we move on. So, Jack Collison is the new Twos manager, and this was something that a lot of people guessed at going back to January when things were looking like, okay, this could change here, this could move here, this could happen here. So Jack is younger than Stephen Glass was when he came into the role, but he's coming from the same place in terms of the U17s. Jack has some experience coming into this before he came to Atlanta. He began coaching in 2015 at Peterborough, stayed with them through 2017, went back to West Ham where he spent most of his professional career. He coached the U14s, 16s, and 18s there. So a good bit of experience, but it's a different experience, and Stephen Glass was in the same situation when he took over. It's one thing to coach youth teams. It's another to coach a second team. It's a different mentality, and you're dealing with a different kind of player. You're not dealing with kids who will probably do everything you say and not ask as many questions. You're dealing with some kids who will do that, but you're also dealing with some established pros and some hopefully soon to be established pros. So it's a different transition for Jack Collison, but him and Omar Giron, who's going to be helping him out as the interim assistant coach, both have professional playing experience. That's an important element right now to help guide them. Jack, for those who aren't aware, made 121 appearances for West Ham in the Premier League and in the Championship, 14 goals during his time at West Ham from 2007 to 14, spent some time out on loan at Bournemouth and at Wigan, joined Peterborough, where he ultimately retired as a player in 2016, 17 caps for Wales internationally. So there's a lot of new in some ways with Atlanta United's academy, and the Twos are a big part of the progression from the academy. There's also a lot of continuity as well. So it's a really interesting time with, faces leaving, but also faces moving up the chain. And Jared, we see this in college programs. We see it in professional programs, minor leagues. Like, it's so important to be not just doing the job as a academy manager, academy director, all those things to deal with the players, but also to develop the organization. You always have to basically be looking for your own replacement in a lot of ways. And it's a very important part of a thriving organization, and Atlanta's put themselves in a position to have Collison and Lowry move up now.
It is the Sith. It is the rule of two. You're always going to have a master and an apprentice. If we can really fly off of the dirt path here into the woods. Because as soon as someone takes over that mantle, as we're seeing this morning, so he's going to have to grab an apprentice at some point. And that's not to say you grab someone and immediately have somebody in place. It may take some time. Remember, Tony was with the club for a very, very long time. It wasn't an overnight thing, but you're going to have somebody else in mind down the road. And, when Matt moves, whoever that is going to possibly step in, and then they're going to do the same thing. You always have a master and an apprentice.
Yeah, I think successful organizations do. Also, and people have noticed on the announcement, Kevin Kratz is a co-head coach at the U13 level with Omar Giron, who's going to be with the Twos on an interim basis right now as well. So Kratz is going to help bridge that gap right now. I know a lot of people are throwing other former players' names out there. Jeff Lorenowitz' name, like any former player is going to be linked here. It's not always that simple because not every player wants to go into that road, and maybe not yet straight away. We've had these conversations with Jeff, with Michael Parkhurst, and everybody's different when they end their career. Some do not want to leave the game. Some do want to leave it for a little while. Last night, Clint Dempsey made his return to being part of the U.S. soccer consciousness on TV. I don't think anybody saw that coming. At the time when Clint retired, I didn't know if we'd really hear from Clint much more. I thought he'd be fishing pretty much nonstop. But he came back, did TV, put on his sunglasses, was very entertaining, and I think everybody loved it. He needed time away. Sometimes guys don't need that time away. We talked about it with Collison's career. He went straight into it while he was still playing on the coaching side. Others, you want to break. And maybe that's going to be the case for some guys. So, and then not everybody's a coach. Guys can find different ways to be involved. So we will see how all that goes. But what you're seeing is a club that's starting to flesh out with a little bit of history now. People have gone through the program. People understand what it is to be at Atlanta United. And now you have somebody with the twos and somebody with the academy who have been through that and done that and will be there and will continue on the work that's already happened before. That press conference is at 9:30. If there's any interesting quotes, we will give those to you. We will also try to bring you a little bit of audio in hour number 2. Bart Keeler is going to join us at 10 o'clock to talk U.S. men's national team and their match last night. 1-0. It was a struggle at times, but it was a win ultimately, which is the job. They advanced. Mexico had a bigger struggle and had to go to penalties against Costa Rica. We'll talk about that as well. Folks are not happy south of the border about it. So we'll get into all these things after we try John's microphone one more time and see if he can make it work. No, he can't make it work.
Nope. I was so excited for you.
I thought we had to do it one more time just to give it a shot.
Yeah, you got to try.
You have to give it every opportunity you possibly can. And John has failed us yet again. So,
wow, that's harsh.
I mean,
Jesus.
Well, Jarrett, I don't really know what else to do. So here's what we're gonna do. Jarrett, I'm gonna ask you to give us your abridged thoughts on the U.S. and Honduras last night, while I try to get things sorted out with John on the back end.
Okay, so you used the word last night that I liked the most about this, which is the U.S. suffered. They got it done, but man, they suffered. There was a lot of conversation about the difference between, and this is brought up last night for me, the difference between going just off raw numbers and going off what your eyes are telling you. You have the same conversation in pretty much any sport, I think, at this point, where analytics and numbers blending together with what you're seeing are a really good way to go about life, because Honduras generates 0.2 expected goals. It felt like they had a bigger chance than that, especially in the second half early on. And they were still dangerous getting space. There's no excuse for them getting the space they got at the end of the game, at all. It wasn't great, Bob.
Accurate.
Because they were getting Albert Elise does not need that much space. He does not need to be nutmegging you in your own 18 in the 92nd minute. Probably for the best that he tried to pass and was unselfish and didn't try and shoot from 5 feet away right at goal. But man, that was just you suffered, and I think they talked about it after the game. This is a game you kind of needed. Like, I don't know if you need to make it that stressful, but it does kind of build the scar tissue up to have a game like that. But you're going to get plenty of that at Concacaf. Mexico showed you that no one's impervious to it. You can argue very successfully that Costa Rica is going to be a different test than Honduras, especially a lot of times in the past, especially a more challenging test and a more technical test. But yeah, Mexico is going to be upset about theirs. The U.S. will still have questions, and they'll both have to deal with those questions going into the final. Because I think after the U.S. game, I remember logging off of our call that I can hear John's static in the background now.
Yeah, John is with us via audio at least.
That's okay. But I remember thinking about it after the game as we logged off from our call on Twitch of, man, Mexico does the job here. The conversation leading up to this game is going to be pretty one-sided, and it's going to be pretty damn exhausting. Well, Mexico didn't cover themselves in glory. Conversation's going to get real interesting going into this game. And I'm very interested to see what the conversation in Mexico is about Tata Martino's squad.
Yeah, I don't want to deflect from the U.S. performance with Honduras
No, not at
because
all.
Mexico struggled, but they did they did struggle. They had 58% of the ball, which you would expect against Costa Rica. They had 13 shots, outshot them 13-5. Only 4 shots on goal. I thought Costa Rica's goalkeeper, who we saw with Ala Walense, Elena Morera, was very good. Made a couple of big saves, but they needed Memo Ochoa to make a save in the penalty shootout to win, and they struggled and suffered more than the U.S. did. I think one takeaway, and it's really easy to say, okay, we said it. The U.S. and Mexico, you look on paper, they're the better teams here, and they are, and there's no way around that. But I think what is happening more and more is we are all underestimating the growth of the game in countries like Costa Rica and Honduras, the growth of the level. It's gotten better. MLS is a huge part of that for a lot of these countries because their players are playing at a higher level than they ever have in larger numbers. And Honduras and Costa Rica are not teams that can play always toe-to-toe with the U.S. and Mexico, but they can frustrate them, they can make life difficult for them, and they can get results against them on their day. Costa Rica ultimately did get a result against Mexico. Honduras was very, very close against the United States. What it shows you, John, is that World Cup qualifying ain't going to be a cakewalk for anybody in Concacaf coming up later this year.
No, and I had, when we were looking at players of the match and things like that, I literally had Morera as my player of the game for Costa Rica, considering they didn't have Keylor Navas, and he was, integral to the defense there at the back. And so, I looked at the Mexico-Costa Rica match. If Costa Rica did things the way that they wanted, it was going to be a pain for Mexico to get through. And sure enough, Memo Ochoa had to come up with a big save in penalties for that to happen. And, it was that one moment, and it came down to a moment, this is what we talk about in these kinds of games where you're talking about a moment, and it just so happened that it came in penalties for Mexico to work their way through. But, yeah, for me, Costa Rica, Morera was absolutely outstanding for me when he needed to be. And, you have that moment, but I know that the Mexican press and the fan base is certainly going to sit there and have a whole lot of things to say about something that really, when you look at it from 30,000 feet, it is not easy to do.
Look, it's a lot of the same things that are being said here. I saw lots of people with the Berhalter out, and what's he doing with his tactics? They were saying the same thing in Mexico. Mexico played a 3-4-3, and it's like, why is Antuna playing as a wingback? What is this? He didn't do anything in the attack, and he wasn't good defensively. It's the nature of the game at this point, especially it's the nature of the online conversation. Greg Berhalter and Tata Martino do have an idea of what they're doing, and they are thinking short-term and long-term. And let me ask you the long-term question, Jarrett. So we've seen the U.S. now in a competitive game for the first time in a long time. They found a way through. That was what they had to do. They did. It wasn't pretty, but they did. Does this make you feel better about World Cup qualifying coming up? Are you worried more than you were before the game started? Or, are you pretty much the same? And if you are, then how do you feel about this upcoming qualification process? It's going to be 14 games in a really short period of time with 7 of them on the road in CONCACAF.
I kind of want to neglect to answer until after the Mexico game, not out of cowardice necessarily, but I want to see how they respond to this game. Because it's a weird game. You score the late goal. You had trouble breaking them down, which makes sense, give everything considered. They had 10 guys behind the ball. You gave up way too much damn space late in that game. You gave Honduras way too much credit and way too much time on the ball, way too much space. But I want to see how you respond in Mexico, because what you're going to deal with this octagon of chaos that you're about to enter is, you got a lot of games in a short amount of time. I'm going to need you to let water roll off your back like a duck. If things don't go right, I need you to be tough about it mentally and be tough about it physically. Because it's CONCACAF, you're going to have to be tough about it physically. Teams are going to beat the dog out of you, and you're going to have to beat the dog out of teams. But I want to see how you respond to this tough game. Can you stay on top of things mentally and be sharp going into this next game? It's a rivalry game in Mexico. I get it. USA and Mexico's fates are always going to be tied together forever and ever. Amen. That's just the way it works in the world we live. But aside from that, like, I liked the fight. I want to see them tighten things up in the back. And I'm worried that's where they can get hurt, because you had guys like John Brooks who had some really great moments, also some moments that he's not going to want to watch back on tape. You have those moments against better teams, you're going to get hurt badly. So you're going to have to tighten up the back. But show me how you respond to this, because, yeah, with the way that the qualification is going to happen, with games in such tight time windows, you're going to have to just forget everything from the last game in terms of whether it was good or bad. You just got to get ready for the next one.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, and the gap's not big anymore. And I don't think it's because the U.S. and Mexico have come back to the pack. I think it's because the pack
everybody caught them.
Developed, yeah. I think it's just gotten better. And you have unique challenges in CONCACAF. There was some interesting back and forths about some of the comments made and maybe trying to read between the lines and what Greg Berhalter was saying after the game about gamesmanship or dark arts or just difficulties in playing in CONCACAF. Sebastian Lletget had some things to say.
It's simple. It's easy. Read between the lines.
It's different. CONCACAF's different. Like, it's not Ireland versus Andorra or Scotland versus the Netherlands. Like, what's acceptable is different. Making the local high school team come running out on the field with a stretcher over and over and over again is acceptable in CONCACAF. I think they ended up getting tired and had to be replaced by the end of it. That's not as acceptable in other parts of the world. It's different. It's not to say the gamesmanship doesn't happen in other parts of the world, but there are things you have to get used to. The way the game's refereed is different here. There are elements that are different. And I think this was a process that, as we talked about yesterday, there were a lot of U.S. players who had not been in these situations. There were a lot of players on the field last night who had not been in a knockout game against a CONCACAF opponent who will do all of those things that drive you crazy. And we can get hung up on it and hung up on it and hung up on it. It's not going away anytime soon. There are things I wish they would handle better. I hate the I'm hurt, stretcher, come get me.
Oh, I'm okay.
I'm okay. I'm good. I don't want to get on the stretcher. I don't trust those girls to carry me off the field, which might have been a valid situation in some of those.
And the best part was still Weston McKennie strapping a player from Honduras down on the stretcher.
Hey, if you're going to get to that point, strap him down, get him out of there. I'd have no problem with that. But
I thought this damn thing was hilarious, man.
I have no problem if they want to get to a point where, okay, you do that, then automatic yellow. Cool. These are things that, yes, should happen. They're not going to happen tomorrow. They're not going to happen ahead of Sunday. They're not going to happen ahead of World Cup qualifying this fall. So just have to deal with it. Berhalter said this game is exactly what we needed. And a lot of people took it in different ways. But, yeah, he said some of these guys have never seen that before. He's talking about the competitiveness and the level of competition. Accurate. Also, they've never seen some of the shenanigans. It's part of the game. It's something they're going to have to deal with. Go down to play in Tegucigalpa. Go down to play, in Jamaica. It's not going to be easy. So
if Honduras has scored, Albert at least would have stabbed a teammate to waste time in extra time.
Yes.
Y'all weren't ready for that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All of that is going to be there. And to get the experience against it, and to get the win. And generally, my issues with the U.S. performance last night were not composure issues like that. They handled that stuff really well. There were some composure issues with needing to have more patience in the attack. Also, needing to see the game out better after getting the goal. Those are things that, that you can work through that. That's an experience thing. They handled the shenanigans pretty well. That's a good step because it is going to be part of going on the road and dealing with some of these games. I think they handled that all right. They needed to be sharper. So many guys playing that crazy European season that everybody just went through. European managers are talking about it. Like, players are tired. Players are sapped. Christian Pulisic didn't look great last night. As he wiped out after being part of a Champions League final just a few days ago. It's very possible. Gio Reyna had some flashes that were great, but he's also had a little more time off than some of the other guys. So did John Brooks. I think John Brooks had some big performances in the match. He had a couple mistakes, but he was the man of the match, in my opinion. It's tough. It's tough. Mexico will be very tough on the weekend, but I think both teams come in, maybe, John, a little more even than we might have thought coming into it.
Yeah, and going back to the Berhalter quote quickly, when he said what he said, this is the kind of game that they needed, I was thinking, this is the kind of game that you needed. You needed to have a team tested on multiple levels, not just with what was going on the pitch and what was going on to where you end up with the 89th minute winner. All of the stuff that's the overarching elements of it, the Concacaf-iness, what we associate with that, and being in a game that's going to be that grinder that we talk about where you need to find a result somehow and the guys have to find that extra bit of energy that might not have been there in the 75th minute. All of those intangible things that we talk about in addition to what we would normally associate with a match like this, when Berhalter said that, that's what was running through my head. It's like everything that you had to face in this match, whether it was internal or external, is what I was interpreting from that quote. And when you come into this with, you're going up against a Mexico side that had to have that same kind of a test, as you will, going up against a defensive side in Costa Rica, and they were challenged as much as you were. I think that both of these teams were challenged in their matches, and I think that they can take that information and apply it going forward. I think it will be a very interesting match on the weekend because of the tests that both of these teams had last night, heading into a game with short rest, trying to figure out how your managers are going to adjust. Are you going to continue to roll with guys that were there? All of the thought that you're going to have on very, very quick successions of thought. And so there's a lot of different things here for me that will make this just as compelling as we've seen in the past when U.S. has played Mexico, when we see it in Denver this weekend. There's a lot of different things in play now, even more perhaps from what we saw from last night that we can add.
Yeah, it's always compelling. U.S. and Mexico could play on a Tuesday night, and the game was booked on a Monday, and it's not the A team or the B team or the C team or the D team, but it's a veterans team, guys who are over 30 years old, and there'll probably be a fight in the game. So it's always compelling. Yep. That's always going to be the situation. It's maybe a little more even when we look at how the teams are coming in, because I think everybody coming into these two games thought, okay, Mexico's the clear and huge favorite. I don't know if that's the case at this point, but I think they're the favorite.
Right.
A lot of comments in the Twitch pitch about who should start up top. I think Josh Sargent had some good moments. He had a huge defensive play, clearing a ball off the line. He had one really good header as well. Is he the no questions asked number 9 for this team, or does Jordan Siebatcheu need to get an opportunity? Jordan comes on and puts away a header that anybody should have put away in that moment. I think Jordan did well with his opportunity. I don't think Sargent has the job locked, Jarrett. I think Josh Sargent is somebody that we have thought of for a long time as that guy, but I don't think he has locked down the number 9 yet from anybody else. And if Jordan Siebatcheu has looked better and he got the goal, I don't know how much else there is to judge. But if he's looked better, if the trainings are looking better, then I have no problem with him getting the start. I don't think Josh Sargent is irreplaceable at this point.
No, neither do I. I mean, there's other guys who weren't there that you would like. I would like to see taken into account in the future. I mean, when you go into a Hex, I want to see you taking a guy like Jesse Zardes, who's a bit older and, you know, a bit more of a veteran striker.
If he's in form, yeah, he's been he has really been this year. So I mean, in general, yes, but he's got to be in top form to do it.
Yeah, but I would like to see you be able to bring someone in like that if he's in form, who can be that. I don't want to say a calming presence because I don't mean to say the kids can't be calm, but like a
veteran presence.
A veteran presence. I will put $1 in the jar for that one. There are going to be other guys who I think are going to be pushing over the summer. This is a huge summer for a guy like Daryl Dike, who just absolutely lit up England. I'm assuming he's going to come back to Orlando for a while. I would assume Orlando is going to sell him. Somebody in England's going to give you $20 million for him, I would think. But until that happens, Daryl Dike is going to need to light up the score sheet so he can be a part of this and he can kind of make his mark. It's a big summer for a lot of these guys. What does happen to Josh Sargent? Does he stay and play in Bundesliga 2? Does he get moved? Because I know I don't necessarily feel like Sargent has been made the, for lack of a better term, like the default in people's minds. I feel like people always just expect, kind of like waiting on him to grab it and just take it. And I feel like he hasn't taken it, so to speak. And not to say that he's done terribly, but he hasn't taken this thing and made it his without.
He hasn't asserted himself and to be the guy, basically.
Yes, thank you.
News out of Argentina this morning, Carlos Tevez is leaving Boca Juniors. He is not retiring, at least according to the wording that Tevez has been given this morning. He is giving a press conference later to confirm that he is leaving the club. He was under contract through 6 more months was the idea. There was thoughts that he would retire. It's been a challenging year. It's been a challenging year for Boca. It's been a challenging year for all of us. Carlos also lost his father not that long ago. The idea was that he would retire or he would stay with Boca, but the way this is being worded is odd. I wonder if he's going to play anywhere else. Yes, Thomas has already started it. Tevez to Miami as their 6th designated player. He was.
6, I thought we were on. No, I'm losing track. I'm very sorry, Miami.
Well, it'd be 6 in total in lifetime, but maybe 4 right now or 5, depending on how they've worked things out.
Still on the plus side.
Miami, please.
You don't know. They're not on the plus side. No, they're not on the plus side. No.
Just do it. I want to see what the punishment looks like if you do it when you're already in trouble.
Sure, why not? But yeah,
go ahead and go full SMU.
Yeah, Carlitos is leaving Boca Juniors and maybe retiring, but the wording from the announcements so far on Tevez is not retiring but leaving the club. So stay tuned. That's going to be a huge talking point.
Atlanta's got a minimum roster spot open.
They do, and they had a player of a similar
veteran striker
stature who was in that spot previously. So Carlos Tevez wants to come for the senior minimum. And people have already started saying that one too. Anything can happen. I'm not expecting that one, but
expecting it. But I also wasn't expecting Lisandro Lopez.
No, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true.
I don't mean to start a. I'm going to.
You've already started it, Jared.
I know. I don't mean to imply that Carlos Tevez would come to Atlanta. It would be hilarious.
No, but we have seen those. Yeah, but we've seen those kinds of things pop up before. So
don't
there's
put money
nothing
on that. You'll lose
yes,
that money.
Yeah, don't. There's nothing to say that is happening. Slow down. I think it's probably more likely that he retires than goes anywhere else. But again, like I said, the wording is not saying he is retiring as a player. It is that he is leaving Boca Juniors. So There'll be an announcement later today. There will also be a lot of talk out of Argentina about their 1-1 draw with Chile in World Cup qualifying last night. Lionel Messi scored, hit the bar later, but Chile, Alexis Sanchez pulled an equalizer, 1-1 draw. Argentina's fine with World Cup qualifying at this stage. Brazil and Ecuador play later today. Other results, Joseph Martinez came on in the second half, but Venezuela faded in the last 30 minutes, gave up 2 goals, lost in La Paz to Bolivia 3-1. Uruguay and Paraguay, scoreless draw, not exactly a shock in Montevideo. And the late game, Colombia went to Lima, Peru, and won 3-0. There was a 45th-minute red card to Miguel Trauco of Peru. It was already 1-0 at that point. Pedro Galese made a mistake, gave up a goal to Yerry Mina on a set piece. Colombia scored 2 more to go up 3-0. Then Daniel Munoz got a red card for violent conduct for Colombia, so the match finished at 10-10, 3-0 to Colombia. They needed that win in the worst way. So in the South American World Cup qualifying, again, with Brazil and Ecuador to play today at 8:30, Brazil leads the race right now with 12 points. Argentina is next with 11. Ecuador is third with 9, and Brazil and Ecuador have that game in hand. Paraguay's on 7. Uruguay's on 7. Colombia is now on 7, but they have worse goal differential. Remember, they got spanked a couple of times, so they've given up 11 goals in 5 games. Chile is on 5 points, 2 back. Colombia is out of a playoff spot right now in 6th place. Chile's 2 points off the pace. Bolivia's 3 points off the pace. Venezuela's 4 points off the pace, and Peru is in last with 1 point, 6 points off. There are 13 more games for most teams, 14 for Brazil and Ecuador. There's a lot to be played in South America, and things get completely crazy.
Paraguay, the masters of the draw. I mean, they've drawn their last 3, and still, I mean, they're part of that hashtag gaggle at 4, 5, and 6, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Colombia. So you flinch one direction, you could get a whole lot of movement one way or the other with that those 4 and 5 spots to me right now. That's the middle of the table. That's what I'm staring at right now.
And 4 gets you in automatically. 5, you are in a playoff situation. In the next round of games on the 8th, so coming up next week, Ecuador hosts Peru. You would expect from what we've seen for Peru, Ecuador gets 3 points there. Venezuela hosts Uruguay in a really interesting game, and the Vinotinto really need 3 points out of that. Colombia is set to host Argentina. I don't know how that happens at this point. I don't know where that happens at this point. Trying to see where it is booked for. It is in Barranquilla right now is where it's supposed to be played. I think everybody knows about the unrest that is going on in Colombia right now, so I'm kind of wondering how they get a World Cup qualifier done in the current climate. But stay tuned on that. Paraguay hosts Brazil on the 8th, and Chile hosts Bolivia. See if Bolivia can get anything away from home. So that qualification process is continuing. In Concacaf, the qualification continues today with games. It's kind of a little bit out of sight, out of mind for the U.S., for Mexico, for the others that are already booked into the octagonal. Not the hexagonal, not the hex. It's the octo. It's the 8. It's the ocho. That is coming up here shortly, and there could be.
Can we monopolize
surprises.
Octagon and take it away from Dana White?
Why not? I mean, we can try. I don't have a problem with that.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Why not?
I choose to do this.
Let's give it a shot.
We'll pick someone from MLS or U.S. Soccer to go fight Dana White. There's enough players here that I would not want to fight that we could throw there. Or we could just send Solomon Hill. Solo was trying to fight everyone in New York the other night. Give him somebody to fight. Give him Dana.
Sure. That's fine. We'll send Solomon Hill to fight Dana White. I didn't see that one coming this morning, but all right. You've got still some games to play, and it's really complicated with CONCACAF qualifying. But Montserrat could possibly get into the Ocho. Canada should, or at least get into the playoff to get into the Ocho. Sorry, the group that is going on right now, everybody's playing 4 games. The winners of the groups then have a playoff, and 3 teams will join the other 5 in the Ocho. So it looks like Montserrat could get into the playoff. Canada should get into the playoff. Curacao should probably get into the playoff. That's not a guarantee.
I mean,
Guatemala's right
Guatemala's won their first 2.
Curaçao's better than Guatemala. That's why I'm saying they should, but they play on the 8th, and that will decide the group. Group D, the Dominican Republic has shown very strongly so far. Everybody expected Panama to get there. They still could. They play on the 8th, and with the game that'll decide the group. Group E, Haiti was expected to go through. They still have an opportunity to. There's a bunch of games to deal with there, and good luck, Concacaf. We'll see how that goes. Group F, one of the surprises has been Puerto Rico under Dave Sarachan. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull this off. St. Kitts and Nevis is in a good position so far with 2 wins. Trinidad and Tobago is right there, and Trinidad and Tobago and St. Kitts and Nevis play on the 8th. So Trinidad and Tobago plays tomorrow against the Bahamas, who are 0-3 and have given up 15 goals in 3 games. If the Bahamas needs a new manager, I would like to put my hat in the ring.
See, there you go.
I'll take that job.
Just going to go play on whatever cricket field they do. They used to be Popeye's Bahamas Bowl, rest in peace.
Yeah, just go to Robinson Stadium there where they play the Bahamas Bowl and just do it there.
I will vote for that. I will vote to be in consideration for that job. Please. I just like to go live in the Bahamas. It'd be nice. I think I could do at least as good as giving up 5 goals a game. I'd like to think.
Yes.
I hope, anyway. Okay. Other news of the day. Again, Bart Keeler is going to join us in 10 minutes. We'll jump back into U.S., Honduras, and upcoming U.S. and Mexico. Mark Ingram, a guy that you football fans know, the 2009 Heisman Trophy winner. He has purchased a small stake in D.C. United. Now, everybody freaked out. Freaked out. People are throwing shade. People are tossing off their pithy tweets about it, because the valuation of D.C. United in this purchase of 1% of the team was, I think, $710 million. How could that be the case? This is rah, 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 rabble, rabble, rabble. This is rah, rah, rah. He bought a tiny percentage of the team. He's not going to get the market rate like he was buying 50% of it. That's not really hard to understand, right?
Yeah.
He's going to have to pay more to buy a smaller piece.
Yeah, so it's not an averaging out of, well, if it's 1% and it's X. No, you're going to pay a little bit more for that smaller piece. That's how it always is. It's like going to the store and, you want the 1 liter bottle of the drink. You don't want the 2 liter, and it's in the fridge, and you're paying like $1.70 for it because it's the cold 1 liter instead of going to the drink aisle and just paying like the $1.39 for the 2 liter. That's what you're getting here. That you're getting the convenience aspect of it.
Jarrett, why am I not surprised that was the analogy that John went to?
Because you have been doing this show together for 40 years?
Accurate, yes.
5. This is year 5, yeah.
Yeah, accurate.
God, we need a life.
I know. Ragamuffin is correct, because this is what Twitter felt like when this news came out. They're not worth that much, Paul. 1% of them was.
Not wrong.
To somebody.
Yeah.
No. Wrong. Yes, wrong. The idea that DC United can't be worth that much.
I mean, look at what Orlando was sold for.
No. Stop. Don't do this thing where you say one thing and then you say something different. Listen. Why is it such a shock that an MLS team could be worth this much in the nation's capital with a stadium inside the city? Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't the Washington football team worth more than most NFL teams?
Yeah, they're over $1 billion extra large, yes.
Why are they worth so much more than the Kansas City Chiefs, who are a better team? Because maybe
the real estate.
Yes.
Real estate, and it's the real estate that's there.
Yeah, yes, Dan should sell it. I agree, DM Tim. Giannis says they're the 5th or 6th highest franchise, and they've been awful for a while. Sorry, Giannis, I apologize. Yeah, but it's Washington. It's a good market, and I mean, if somebody's gonna pay the price, it's worth it. If we want to go black helicopter, and that's what I know a lot of people want to do, like, oh well, they're floating these numbers out there to try to then raise the valuation of something. If these business people with a lot of money are fooled by these things, take their money and run, right? Like, come on. These people, know what they're doing, and if somebody's going to pay a price, they're going to pay a price. Yeah, it might not be $710 if you're going to buy the whole thing outright. But are they going to sell the whole thing outright right now? No. So it's worth whatever Mark Ingram paid for it, his 1%. This idea that MLS can't be a valuable commodity, I think, needs to stop, because it's been proven wrong time and time and time and time and time again. You can point to TV ratings, you can point to whatever you want to point to, but people keep buying. People keep buying in and paying good money, or there is a gigantic conspiracy through everybody who is involved in buying teams from the outside and in the inside, and all of the different media people who are talking about these numbers, and it is a gigantic conspiracy, and it's actually being sold for a $5 gift certificate to Spencer's at the mall. I'm going to think that's not the case. So, can we stop that?
I mean,
silliness?
market value dictates what you would pay for something, and the continuing increase of market value of Major League Soccer franchises and the engagement that you're seeing. I mean, Houston recently, Orlando recently, and you're seeing 9 figures easily across the board for all this stuff. So if people want in for something that, what did Forbes say the valuations were up at least 30% year to year for Major League Soccer franchises?
They've been up, and the sales have consistently been above those valuations. It's not a one-time thing. So can we stop the outrage anytime a number is mentioned for a valuation or a sale happens and it ain't worth that, Paul? Can we stop? Tommy, it's worth whatever someone is willing to pay. Exactly. And there have been people willing to pay. So, welcome to the family, Mark Ingram, of owning 1% of an MLS team. He's been to games. That's great. He sees it as a good investment. Yeah, it's a smart one. I think it's a growing league, and you're going to get in cheaper there than you're going to get into the NBA or others. So, more power to you. Why do American soccer people get bent out of shape about this? It's an interesting discussion that maybe needs to be had at some point, because I don't understand why American soccer people sometimes seem to hate American soccer. One day that will stop, I hope, because it's really dumb. It's a good thing, Mark.
Because why would you invest in something if you're going to lose money on it? I mean, seriously, you're going to sit there and put 7 figures worth of your disposable income into something. Yeah, I'm just going to sit there and set 7 figures to the left of the decimal place on fire. No, you think it's a good investment. And Major League Soccer has turned over time and time again to be a solid investment for people, even if it is 1% of a larger pie. So good on Mark Ingram for finding that Major League Soccer is something that he wants to invest in. So what if it's 1%? He's an investor in something
nobody
that's
cares
a growth
about the
industry.
1%, John. That's not the issue. People are freaking out about the valuation. And I think buying the 1% is honestly 100% thinking it is a good investment. If he was buying the whole team, yeah, you can get into some different conversations of he wants to own a sports team. He has the money to spend, and he wants to own a team and be involved. And yeah, like as Byrne says, it doesn't always become a rational process. Buying 1%, yeah, that feels like an investment. But you're buying a whole team and you have the money to do so. You might just want to do it because you're loaded and you want something to do rather than sit on a yacht all day. Cool. There's prestige, there's pride, there's all kinds of different things. But yeah, it's valued at what it's selling for. And these teams continue to sell for larger amounts because people are seeing them as better and better investments. Because they're selling for larger amounts. So, I mean, it's kind of a circle. Absolutely, Sean. The XG, the XV, the expected value is so much lower than these actual sales are happening. So we have to diminish the sales because it's not good. The XV is bad. We'll see. We'll see. Ragamuffin, I do not know how much Mindy Kaling paid for her 1% of Swansea, or if she owns 1% of Swansea. Maybe she owns more.
Yeah, she's one of a handful of owners, and when I saw that pop up on the Twitch pitch, I was trying to figure out what the percentage is. Kaplan and Levian back in 2016 got 2/3 of it, along with 25 other investors. So it's 27 individuals that own 68%, but I don't know what the breakdown is or how much she's paying. So that's my homework assignment for the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if you're going to find that, who owns how much, because it might be different. I don't know if it's an even split or what. We shall see. Jarrett, any final words, or are you going to hang out with us with our friend Bart coming up here in a few minutes?
Oh, no, I'm departing this realm for a bit. I may try and visit back by before the end of the show. We'll see.
That's always a frightening threat, but thanks.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, you didn't expect me to pop up in the second half of USA game either. So
No, you just randomly showed up. I was like, what?
Yeah.
You never know when Jarrett Smith is going to come flying in off the top rope.
Sting from the rafters.
Yes, absolutely. But thank you.
As always.
All right.
I'll be at the Twos game Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. Yeah, Sunday.
You can wave and throw things at Jarrett Smith if you want.
We will be at the Twos game on Sunday. We'll see what happens, and then we'll have a Twos review after the game.
Twos review will be live after the game. We'll talk to you then.
All right.
Adios. All right, John, you're on the phone, but you still got to do work.
Mindy Kaling holds 1% of the consortium's controlling stake, and Landon Donovan owns 0.4%.
Okay, good homework. But we don't know how much she paid specifically for her 1% versus the rest. But that's fine. Probably she paid less than Mark Ingram paid for DC United. And I know that probably really upsets some people, but facts are facts, yo.
And she was inspired by Oprah to invest in that purchase.
All righty then. Do you want to tell us about somebody in Decatur, Georgia?
I can do that.
All right. Tell us about our good friend Steve Apolinsky.
Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network for wrongful death and serious injury matters. One place that you need to go, and it is Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can do it. You can pick up the phone, get a free consultation, 404-377-9191. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve at aa-legal.com. Or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small, and you can type in aa-legal.com into the address bar. Hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the homepage for Apolinsky & Associates. You can find out about all the different cases that they can handle for you by activating the pull-down tabs, or you can find out about all of the different awards that they have won for the firm in their over 30 years of experience and over $40 million in judgments that they have garnered for their clients in Georgia and Alabama. And if you still have questions, there's a pop-up window that has popped up by the time that you've started investigating in the low right-hand corner, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, one place you need to go. It's Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
That's a very good telephone read, John.
Well, I still was using the hand signals for the ghost typing in the address bar, the wavering for the enter and the arrow and the return keys, and for the ghost at in shooting Steve the email for Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. That's just not pictured, I guess, is probably the caption that could be used.
Hey, you got a 10 from Abby, you got a 7, a little muffled. You know why. Actually, I don't know why, and I don't know if John really truly knows why.
I don't either.
But,
I don't either. Works for Zoom, but apparently not for Skype.
Mm-hmm. 10 out of 10 from Tommy. -1 no video, -1 audio not very clear, therefore affecting the effectiveness of the ad read. Affecting the effectiveness. Okay. -1 adding words for no reason. With a rolling of the eyes. +1 with the pause. It's Friday and I'm in a good mood. Trey hit another 3 on his way to the airport. 6.5467. East Germany is happy.
Thank you, East Germany.
6.54 is happy. +2 for not thanking on the quarter day. -2 for the extra long pause.
That is so not correct, Thomas. You win.
It wasn't that long.
Not an extra long.
Yeah,
it was not an extra long pause.
It was a little shorter. 10 from Alex. No surprise. You're not going to thank Alex? You're beyond thanking Alex
Thanks,
at this
Alex.
point?
Thanks, Alex.
Okay, I tried to give you that. Alex, if you want to take points off, go ahead. A 9.5 from Sam. Why would you say all that, John? No one wants to know how the sausage is made. Also, you paused again. Got to take half off. 5. Sean says 10s from Alex are like
Ricky,
his 6s. That's right.
Harsh.
Yeah, Ricky's not
harsh,
playing today.
Ricky. Ricky's turning into an East German judge.
Ricky just dropped his score even more. Mazzano gives you a 5 for your, quote, variety.
And so a 10 from Alex is like a 6 from Sean Vergara.
Yeah, I said that.
Okay. And so, all right. And so the pause, according to Thomas Jewin, 1 or 2 beats. And that's what I was trying to go for today. Just a beat, you know? And Alex even boosted it just a little bit more over 10.
Alex, you should have taken points away. Man, one of these days. All right. Mateo is getting Bart Keeler of the Soccer for US pod up. Bart is with us now. Bart, your video made the broadcast last night. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I had been contacted by the CBS Sports people earlier in the week, and they said, hey, you're hosting a watch party. Could you send us some videos and stuff? So I was very quick to make sure I got my camera rolling after we scored that winner in the 89th minute.
Good work. We left some meat on the bone here because we've talked a little bit about the game, but I didn't want to get super deep into it until you joined us. We kind of talked about it yesterday. Like the job was to win. They did that. They suffered to do that, but that really was the job. Just get the win and move on, and they did.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at it for what this is, and it's a tournament competition, and you won your game in the tournament. How many times have we seen in a tournament or a knockout round where, it's all or nothing right then and there, that a team who should be better than the team that they're playing goes home? Think about Iceland and their Euro runs. Think about, some of the World Cup runs that we've seen where a team, Korea in 2020 or 2002. Wow. It comes to mind too, where it's like, these teams weren't good, but they somehow figured it out. Well, the U.S. had to be on the opposite end of that and be the favorite, and they figured out how to win, and that's a plus.
And I know that someone, when we were discussing the game in preview, had mentioned someone with the last name of Sibachu as someone that they wanted to kind of keep an eye on. And the question kind of came up in the first hour with what happened with Jordan in the match last night. Should he get the start? Has he earned the start when it comes to the match against Mexico to wrap up the tournament? So as you have been prescient when it comes to Jordan Sibachu as a player to watch, what do you think about the Mexico match and Jordan Sibachu? Does he start or does he come in, considering that post-match, Greg Berhalter said that's why they put him on late. We know he's a force on crosses, battles on the box, good physicality, gave us the edge that we needed. Considering what Greg Berhalter said, do you start him or do you bring him in the same way that you did last time out?
Well, I think I'm going to dodge your question a little bit and say that the issue for me wasn't the play of the striker. And so I don't think the number 9 position is my greatest concern. I thought Josh Sargent did quite fine for most of the game. I thought the things he does well aren't necessarily and this is something that you're going to see in a system like this, the striker isn't always meant to score goals, and that really confuses people in soccer. But, he does a lot of things defensively. He does some good work off the ball. I think I haven't seen enough of Siabichu in the system, and that's a fault of Greg Berhalter that I do have, to say, oh, yeah, he can do that as good as Josh Sargent. But that said, he definitely is a more potent option in the box, and he's been doing that for young boys. And, yes, I get it's the Swiss League, but young boys won the Swiss League, and that was quite a shock this year for them to do that. And Siabichu was instrumental in that, and he was pretty effective in their Europa League games as well. So I don't know if I necessarily think that I don't think the striker's position is one that I'm concerned with, because I think that the problems lie farther down the field. But the way it worked out, I liked it a lot, honestly. I liked Siabichu coming off the bench, especially when you're chasing a goal, because he is someone who is a little bit more of a threat in the box. He's a slightly larger target. He's a little bit taller, and he's really good at getting on the end of crosses. And you saw that. That's what he did.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different job coming in at that point with it being scoreless. And, yeah, the striker's role changes. It's get on the end of things as opposed to being involved in the build-up and dropping deeper and some of the elements that we saw from Sargent. I want to work from back to front here. We'll get back to the attack in a minute. So I don't know if you've seen Soccer America's ratings from last night.
Yeah.
Zach Steffen got a 5. 5 is average for them. They go really true, like 1 to 10. 5 is the middle. Steffen got a 5. He had a couple of moments and one really bad one that could have resulted in giving up a goal. He did have a couple of nice saves, but that moment that Josh Sargent had to bail him out, that was catastrophe.
Yeah, Zach Steffen. I'm going to say some things that might be not nice to Zach Steffen, but he has been given the U.S. #1 shirt by Greg Berhalter, and I think it's because Greg Berhalter trusts him because of their time in Columbus. I mean, the only reason Greg Berhalter has a win over Tata Martino is because of Zach Steffen. Mm-hmm. But I am not sold on this indisputable, he's your starter.
I agree.
Especially when you compare that to what Ethan Horvath did against Switzerland, a phenomenally better team than what we saw against Honduras. That's just a fact. I think Steffen has been a very good keeper. I think the real problem is he's not bald, and I think that needs to change. But
okay, there you go.
We don't have a bald U.S. men's national team keeper, and that gives me some anxiety. But no, I don't think he proved himself to be the #1 last night. I don't necessarily know if anyone's ready to take that from him, but it's a job that's open, in my opinion.
I totally agree. The back line. Brooks got a 6. He was the highest rated. He was my man of the match. McKenzie a 4, Dest a 4, Robinson a 3 out of the starters. Do you take issue with any of these ratings?
That's harsh to Robinson.
Little harsh.
Yeah. I think that this back line was always going to be a little exposed against Honduras because of the way Honduras plays. Mm-hmm. They are a pretty direct team. And when you have wingbacks like Dest and Robinson, who are not as concerned with staying home and defending, they're trying to get up the field, which is that's the benefit that they bring to this team, and that's why you want them starting, to be honest. But I thought McKenzie and Brooks specifically were okay. I actually thought that the team defending was better in this game than it was against Switzerland, but I thought we lost some individual battles, which was a little concerning. But again, Honduras is a team with some speed up top, with an absolute monster in Albert Ellis. And I don't care who you are, you're going to struggle to deal with Albert in the CONCACAF matches, because that's what Honduras tries to do. They try to get it to him and see what happens.
Yeah, McKenzie struggled with him a few times, and Brooks got nutmegged after having the lead. That one really upset me a bit. Midfield, McKinney got a 6, Jackson Ewell with a 4, Sebastian Lletget with a 4. I thought Ewell was a little bit better than a 4.
I think Ewell did not give us what we needed in this game. But I also, again, think the issue was with I'm getting to the point where I'm not sure I think McKinney and Lletget are a great pair as the two number 8s, because Lletget is always going to stay high, which is fine. That's a perfectly okay role for him to be in. McKinney is a little too positionally unsound and tends to drift high, and you saw that multiple times and for like long stretches of time last night, where McKinney and Lletget were both almost on the same line as Sargent. Why? They don't both need to be there, and there's a gap of like 10 to 15 yards between them and Ewell, and maybe Ewell needs to step up. But I think really what it is either McKinney or Lletget needs to come back, because at that point you're not using the number 9 false 9 type thing the way that you want to, because he has no one to combine with in the midfield after that. And you don't have an easy pass to just progress the ball simply up the field if they're both up on the same line as your forwards. And that was a big concern for me. So I thought that McKinney played fairly well. Obviously, he gets the assist on the game-winning goal. But I thought our midfield was very bad because they just weren't – I don't know if it was they were told to get that high, but there was just gaps in the midfield and possession that you don't want to see when you're playing a system like this where you need to have options to pass to.
Yeah, I don't think Ewell was great, but I would have given him a 5 if we're going to get quibbly on numbers here. I want to come back to McKinney in a minute, but I want to finish with the forwards. They gave Reyna a 7, the highest rating, Sargent a 6, Pulisic a 6. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think Reyna was probably the best player we saw on the field last night. Probably should have scored early in that first half. Absolutely should have scored that goal. He was a little unlikely to miss it, but you've got to score when you're right there. Or, some people have said he should have laid it off to Sargent. I don't want a forward to lay it off when you're 7 yards from goal, 1-on-1 with the keeper. Just take your shot.
Exactly.
But I thought he created the most dangerous chances for the United States. And I think Reyna was really the brightest spot we had. I thought Pulisic looked a little heavy.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way I could describe it. I don't blame him. The kid's been celebrating a Champions League win. Listen, there'll be another Nations League in like a year or two. There's not always another Champions League, man. Go celebrate. I get it. I thought Sargent was fine. I would give him a 6, like they did. Maybe a 5.5. I don't know if he was above average that much, but he was a perfectly acceptable performance from me.
Okay, before John chimes back in, I want to come back to McKinney real quick. I've said from what I've seen of Brendan Aronson since he went to Austria, and he came on as the sub here, I know Sebastian Lletget is Greg's guy, and I get it. But I would like to see, you talk about that pairing, I would like to see Brendan Aronson and McKinney as the 8s. I think it would clarify things a little bit more. I think they would combine better. I want to get Aronson on the field.
Okay.
But McKinney, is he almost in a way kind of like the current Dempsey in that it was always really difficult to find a position for Clint Dempsey? He didn't really fit.
Yeah.
He wasn't a 9, but you could play him there. He wasn't a 10, but you could play him there. He wasn't a winger, but you could play him there. McKinney's not exactly an 8 or a 10 or a second forward, but he makes plays. And you almost have to have him on the field in some kind of a structure to give him the framework to make big plays, because it seems like he does that.
Yeah, and I think my preferred pairing with McKinney would be Yunus Musa, because I think Musa is a little bit more likely to sit in a space behind the front line, which is what we needed last night. And I would give Greg Berhalter a 3 last night, and mainly because he didn't bring on Yunus Musa. And he also waited for 80 minutes to make a sub, which pissed me off, to be quite honest.
That was weird. Yeah, agree.
And then he made all three of them at the same time. And I was like, you could have made one of these at the 60, because the game was going well. The second half was going well for us. But to your point, I think Aronson needs a little bit more time on the field. And that again goes to, Greg, why are you waiting so long to make a sub? And why did Lletget get the whole, as long as he did? I don't think he was as impactful or influential in the game as I think Greg thinks he is. I'll be just very blunt and say that I thought that there were some players in this match that looked not up to the level that they needed to be. And I thought that Lletget was one of them. I think that Ewell was one of them as well. McKenzie struggled a bit. I'm going to err on the side of I've seen him play better. I've also seen Lletget play better. I don't think Ewell's up to the task for Honduras or above, to be quite honest. But yeah, I think we learned a lot, and some of it wasn't great. A lot of questions were answered. I'll say that. I think a lot of questions were answered. The answers weren't necessarily positive, but questions were answered.
There you go. Go ahead, John.
All right. So to continue to get you fired up about Berhalter, here's what he said after the match when it came to the substitutions and waiting until the 78th. He says, "We felt like a goal was to come, so we didn't want to change much." And if you sit there and you look at that first 78 minutes where there were chances that weren't completed, and I'm in talking with you over the last couple of days, it's like there were, and hearing you just now, where players didn't seem like they were up for the level of the competition that you need to have games like this. And so I guess this is turning into a multi-pronged thought here for you. But you're getting players who didn't meet your expectations or what you anticipated from them in a very important game that they could learn from. At the same time, though, Greg Berhalter seems to have been sitting, hoping that these players would get themselves out of a jam. Am I far off here in trying to gauge what we're looking at?
Yeah, no, I think his comments definitely speak to that, where he was hoping that they would figure it out and they would get the job done. But I still think that, it was very apparent to me. I understand what he thought a goal was coming, but it just seemed like we needed one just slight change to mix it up to get a goal to actually come out of the play we were creating. Because the second half, I actually felt like we pretty much dominated. I think Honduras was very happy to be more counterattacking than they had been in the first half. The first half, Honduras looked quite proactive in the game. And I think we were able to settle into ourselves and really find more possession, find more chances in the second half. So I understand why he thinks that a goal was coming. But it was just it kept ending up in the same way, where it was up and nothing actually materialized of this attacking phase. And so that's where I would disagree with him, that a change probably should have come in the 60th, somewhere between 60 and 70, just to add some, I don't know how to put this other than to say, just add a new perspective into the game. Someone who might have a different idea when they get on the ball rather than what we were continually doing. And that's where I do think a Yunus Musa would have been very influential in the fact that he may have taken a ball from deeper in the field and progressed it by himself up the field, meaning that you're beating defenders as you go by. So someone's having to step to you, you beat them, now they're behind the play, and hopefully that means another defender has to come to you and you have, guys opening up from there. Similar to the way John Brooks created the goal at the end of the game. He took a ball from deep, he progressed it up the field himself. Defenders had to come to him. That left McKennie wide open on the right. And then, he gets a cross into Suvachu. So I think stuff like that was just slightly missing. And so, yeah, I'm still not a fan of Berhalter waiting that long to make subs. And also, you're playing at altitude. You just played, a lot of these guys played a lot of minutes on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I just find that foolish to not make a sub earlier than the 78th minute. Maybe he learned from Gabriel Heinze. I don't know.
That was weird. That one caught me by surprise too, because it felt like there were some guys who were fading, and Honduras had conceded control of the game because they felt like they could see out where things were. So, I mean, the idea that Berhalter feels like a goal was coming, we were in complete control, I don't know how much that's actually true when the opponent is like, sure, you're in complete control. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Honduras, like at the 55th minute, was like, "Oh, we have to go straight to penalties after that. That's cool. We'll see this out.
We're good." I mean, their manager said after the match, Fabian Coito, he said it's not a failure. It's a great game for Honduras. He felt like they followed the game plan. They had their chances to win, which they did, or at least take it to penalties. Like they were comfortable. So the idea that the U.S. was in control and didn't need to make subs, when the opponent is comfortable, you're not in as much control as you think you are.
So Greg Berhalter, I think his best phrase to describe the way he wants to play in his philosophy is to unbalance the opposition with the ball. And that means we're moving the ball, we're moving ourselves, and that means we're unbalancing them and getting them out of sorts. And I never felt that the guys on the field were truly unbalancing Honduras, other than some individual moments of brilliance from Gio Reyna, Sergino Dest, and Christian Pulisic, which is fine. Like, you're going to need those guys to have individual moments of brilliance, but
Brooks
that's
with
not
his passing.
The system that Berhalter wants to have.
Yeah, Brooks with his passing over the top. I think that also unbalanced it.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Not just the one that led to the goal. And oh yeah, by the way, on the goal too, the run from Aronson off the ball to create the space for McKennie. That's another little element to it that I.
And then the dummy, when he knew it because came to him and he just let it go by him.
Yeah, the
Aronson was influential in that goal very well.
Yeah, he didn't get a touch, but he was very involved. Go ahead, John.
But yeah, I was looking at the dummy, and a lot of folks were sitting there, and just the run and then the dummy by Aronson to sit there and give the defense a little something else to think about when it came to everyone, kind of crashing the net at that point. I know that you've mentioned Yunus Musa, Bart, when it comes to seeing him on the weekend. I know that there's been talk about Kellen Acosta, seeing him in there as well. When you look at this matchup coming up against Mexico, I know that this is a very quick question to have you look at what has passed and try to think about what's going to happen on the weekend. But have you thought about things that you'd like to see coming up against Mexico this weekend that we didn't get the chance to see last night?
Yeah, I think against Mexico, Jackson Newell just won't cut it, to be quite honest. He's not defensively sound enough, and Mexico is going to be on the ball a lot more than Honduras was, and they're going to be attacking through the midfield more than Honduras did. So I just don't think Jackson Newell can do the job well in a holding midfield role, because you're going to have some defensive bite, and we've seen the last two games he's very easily beaten, both in space and 1v1, and that's just unfortunate. So that leads me to go, okay, well, is Tyler Adams healthy? Because if he's healthy, you have to play him. Also, props to Tyler Adams getting a yellow card last night. That was awesome.
Very Concacaf.
Love it when your defensive midfielder somehow picks up a yellow card when he didn't even play in the game. That ref deserved it. That ref was a little bit of a mess last night. I don't think he controlled the game well at all. But anyway, I think your question there is if Tyler Adams is healthy, he starts for Jackson Newell. If not, then I think it's Kellen Acosta, because Kellen is a little bit more rangy and just slightly more defensively sharp and more likely to win a tackle. Something that Jackson Newell that's not his forte. It's not. That's not what he's for.
Well, we'll go a step further then, because it's a different game, and I think this is one of the tricky elements for Greg Berhalter when we get to World Cup qualifying is home games against a Honduras or a Costa Rica will be different than away games against the same opponent. Games against Mexico are different than games against Curacao or Jamaica or whoever. So games where you're going to have a lot of the ball, Jackson Newell, I get it, no problem. He needed to do more with it here. Didn't do as much as he could. I thought he was average. But Mexico, no, it's not his game. Is it Kellen Acosta's game? And if it's Kellen's, is it then Yunus Musa's game in place of Sebastian Lletget? Because you're going to probably need a double pivot to deal with Mexico being on the ball more, because I don't expect the U.S. to dominate possession.
No, I'm with you. I think that your midfield has to be Musa, McKennie, and whoever. If Adams is healthy, great.
Yeah.
If not, I think it has to be Kellen Acosta. So Jason, you bring up, like, I have this theorem. They call it the Ewell-Adams theorem. And it's basically, what type of game are we going to have, and who do you need to play at that holding midfielder role?
Mm-hmm.
I think we learned last night that Honduras is not a Ewell game. No offense to him. I think that speaks more to Honduras than it does of Jackson Ewell. But, is he going to be more effective against probably a Curacao? Definitely a team like, we're going to see, if we see El Salvador or Guatemala.
Montserrat. Montserrat's going to qualify. They're going to get into the Ocho.
Montserrat. There you go.
Oh, that'd be
Montserrat
great.
and Puerto Rico. They're coming through.
Yes, let's do it.
Definitely, yeah, Montserrat. Those are the games where I go, okay, maybe Jackson Ewell's much more effective because you are going to have more of the ball. But, in games where the other team is competent and is looking to, again, as I said before, Honduras doesn't not want the ball. They have good players who want to have the ball. They just go about getting the ball back from you in a different manner than a lot of teams we see. It's not a bunker. It is a stout defensive block, but they're looking to get the ball from you, which is not a bunker. That is not a bunker. And that, there are going to be Concacaf teams who are more likely to actually sit back and bunker. And that's where Jackson Ewell is much more effective.
Yeah, the Jackson Ewell theorem of yours, Bart, used to be the Will Trapp theorem.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Sorry to bring up bad memories.
One.
Sorry to bring up bad memories on Will Trapp. But, yeah, that was the idea. It's just like he wasn't good enough defensively in some games where the defensive midfielder was going to have to be defensive. And, in a perfect world, you have somebody who can do both. But, I Tyler Adams has to become that guy. I think that's the next step. And maybe we get a sense of that, because this was something I said on the watch along last night that sticks with me watching the second half. There wasn't anybody who in the past we've seen, whether it was Landon Donovan, whether it was Clint Dempsey, go further back. And you want to go way back into Tab Ramos scoring against Costa Rica in Portland in 1997. Like, guys would put the team on their back in those moments.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like anybody wanted to do that last night. And maybe they didn't have the legs to, maybe the altitude, maybe the tiredness. I don't know, but it didn't feel like there was that urgency at times in the second half.
That's a good word. I think that's the word I would use to describe this team right now, is that there's not an urgency to really get the job done. I will say that I thought Gio Reyna was probably the closest to what you were asking for. Someone who wasn't afraid to take a risk on the ball, to take on a player, to get a shot off. And I thought he was pretty effective. I thought he really should have scored a goal, but, you're going to want your guys to do that, especially, a winger cutting in like that, because more often than not is going to at least be on frame. He just got a little, it just missed. But yeah, I think that's a very valid, there's not you want Christian Pulisic to do that. Maybe he will. I don't think he was going to do that last night. I thought his legs were very heavy. I thought a lot of these guys looked a little, they lacked urgency, and maybe that was a little bit of the lack of energy they had after playing a match, traveling across the world. I won't get into that, but, it was definitely one of those you're like, we're just not quite, it was like we were operating fully at like 85, 90% capacity, as opposed to like being at the 100 or having that potential to get to 100. And Mexico struggled too,
Okay.
so I'm not like looking at us like, oh man, that was bad. It was like, well, Mexico struggled too. I mean, it was funny on Twitter to watch the Mexican fans like, you're struggling with Honduras. I'm like, y'all went to penalty kicks with Costa Rica.
But Bart, I think that speaks more to where the game is closing. It's like the distances between who we perceive as the powers and those who have been perceived in the past as those quote unquote next level teams or second level or whatever. Those gaps are closing. Honduras and Costa Rica are not Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos here. I mean, this is stuff that you're going to have these competitive matchups because the world is smaller these days.
Well, and historically, these are your top four teams in CONCACAF. It goes, someone kind of, maybe Jamaica right now is ranked higher than, I think, Honduras, and possibly Costa Rica. But these are historically your best 4 teams in CONCACAF. I mean, you look at most of World Cup qualifying, they're the best performers. They're usually always there. But this is CONCACAF's plan. This is why they have Nations League. This is why they've increased Gold Cup. And this is why they've kind of expanded at the club level, the Champions League. They want to improve the quality of play in CONCACAF. And Honduras and Costa Rica are the 2 countries who stand to benefit the most because they're going to get more competitive matches. Now, I still don't think this Costa Rica side is anywhere close to where they were in 2014 or 18.
No.
But
no, they're in between generations. Sorry.
But
they're kind of in between.
Because of the improvements CONCACAF has made to improve the game at all levels, you're getting better players at those countries who have been able to, already good, but are able to see really the investment pay off.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're going to see it even further down. You're going to see Haiti. You're going to see Jamaica. You're going to see
Curacao.
Yeah, I mean Curaçao's been a complete shock. Montserrat's been a shock. Like you're going to see more of that because look, there's more professional teams in the United States than there's ever been. And it's not even just MLS, it's USL Championship, it's USL League One. Like players are able to come and develop and play in professional environments and get better and then go back and join their national teams and elevate the program there. And it's massive. So I think at times we have this conversation and we wonder, okay, well, how does the U.S., how does Mexico make the jump and become not just qualifying out of CONCACAF or, sometimes not, or in Mexico's case, having to go to the playoff in 14 to qualify. Is it, how do you make that jump with everybody getting a little more insular, with the European Nations League, with CONMEBOL being CONMEBOL? It's when CONCACAF is at a higher level. And those meaningless games that we used to talk about in qualifying, when they're not meaningless, because you're playing a difficult opponent, not just on the road because of all the CONCACAF-iness, but when Honduras comes to Kansas City to play the U.S. and doesn't just sit back and bunker, but plays you toe-to-toe and pushes you, that's when the U.S. and Mexico are able to go further in World Cups.
Right. Well, and so this is the thing that Europe absolutely does get wrong about their qualification process is putting everyone together. And I actually appreciate CONCACAF stratifying the levels of competition because it does allow the U.S. to play team. The U.S. doesn't get better playing. Who was it in 2018 cycle? Oh, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yeah.
You beat them like 5-0 at home. You go on the road, you beat them 5-0. It's like that doesn't really help it doesn't help anyone.
No.
But being able to have the final 8 where you're playing the 8 best teams in theory in CONCACAF is going to make the USA Mexico better because they're playing teams that have grown, have developed, have become better, and now they're going to be tested, which means that you're going to be better. So yeah, I agree.
All right, Bart, you got anything coming up between now and the final, or are we going to be catching up with you on Monday to break everything down?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to get a recap and preview episode out before Sunday just so that, kind of talk on some key points of this match and then look at the Mexico match and, figure out what exactly the U.S. can do to win. Because after the U.S. match, I'll be honest, I was not confident that we would be able to give Mexico a chance on Sunday. But after watching Mexico play, I was like, oh, there are opportunities if we can be a little bit better defensively and actually convert the chances we create, because I thought we had some moments. So, I'm going to try to get an episode out probably today or tomorrow, just looking ahead at the Mexico match, and then we'll have an episode recapping all of the Nations League next week. So be more than happy to come on Monday and, hopefully talking about the U.S. taking home a trophy for the first time in Greg Berhalter's tenure.
Hopefully. It'd give a nice boost going into qualifiers this fall. Last one, you were at an event last night. It was the first event that the American Outlaws had since the pandemic. Just how much fun was it to watch the game with a bunch of people reacting to it?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I miss that so much, man.
Yeah.
So I've been at a couple of watch parties for Atlanta United games with Resurgence and other supporters groups. Been to the games that we've had full capacity at the Benz. And this was really watching together with U.S. fans is such a different experience because of, for me personally, and why I'm so drawn to the U.S. men's national team is growing up in Atlanta, we didn't really have a professional team to fully get behind. I mean, I supported the Silverbacks and was at those games well before they changed their logo to that monstrosity that they ended up with. But
bring back interlocking AS.
Bring back Willie V. But it's not the same when you're supporting a lower division club because you're not really able to go watch, especially at that point. We didn't get to watch the Silverbacks on TV. What are you talking about? It wasn't on ESPN Plus. We had to find it on. We had to go on what was it? It was like Big Soccer and other boards, and someone would somehow figure out how to upload a score. So, watching U.S. games with fans has been something that has been a part of my sports culture and my sports experience since I can remember. I mean, I used to have friends over to watch the USA qualifiers because it was that was the only real soccer that we would truly be able to gather and watch because we weren't going to watch an Atlanta team. And it was so nice to be around people wearing red, white, and blue and reacting viscerally to, every single a moment, a missed chance, a great tackle, everything was so heightened by that experience. It was so great. And this is cliche, but it just is a reminder of why this sport is the greatest sport in the world. And it's the fans that we have and the ability to connect with people from all walks of life because we're watching the U.S. national team play. And it felt so cool. It felt so refreshing, and it was so invigorating. I mean, I woke up this morning and wasn't even hungover. That's how great it was. That's how much energy I had.
Where can people join y'all on Sunday?
So American Outlaws will be at Torched Hop Brewing on Sunday. That match starts at 9. We'll be there around 8:30. So Torched Hop Brewing on Ponce de Leon. We're kind of touring the city right now to find a new home bar. Ours closed during the COVID pandemic, so RIP to all those bars that fell to the COVID pandemic. But trying to find a new place. We'll be at Torched Hop on Sunday, and we'd love to, come out and watch with us. If you're a Mexico fan, maybe don't come, but anyone else is more than welcome, and we'd love to have you again. It's just great to watch the men's national team with friends again.
Awesome. Well, hey, Bart, we'll talk to you on Monday, breaking everything down, unless it goes really, really well, and then you're not in a condition to join us on Monday morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that 9 o'clock kickoff is late, so
late.
We'll see.
We'll check in
Sounds
with
like
you.
hour number 2.
Yeah, late in the show. Yeah. We'll check in with you, make sure you're good for it. But
right.
Thanks, man. Thanks for all the coverage. We appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Jason. It's been fun, and look forward to talking to you on Monday.
We'll talk to you later.
Be good.
Bartimus Prime 19 on Twitter. Make sure you're following Soccer for US Pod as well. We'll drop that edition ahead of the game on Sunday, so you can dig deeper into the final, look at Mexico a little bit. It's going to be an interesting Sunday in Atlanta with the Hawks that I'll definitely be paying attention to early in the day. Thankfully, that time is early. Then heading up to Kennesaw for the twos, and there'll be some overlap, so I'm not going to be able to join a watch party for the U.S., but we'll be keeping an eye on what happens at the very beginning of the U.S. game and then listening to it as I'm driving home and hopefully getting home in time to see the very end of it. It's a big game on Sunday. It's a huge opportunity for the U.S. to lift a trophy and show that they are at the same level as the team that has set the pace in CONCACAF in Mexico.
Yeah, and that's the key here, is that it is an opportunity. And with any opportunity, it's what do you make of it and how do you make the most of it? What have you learned from what happened yesterday? How do you apply it to an opponent that is always going to be there for you in this theater? And so that's the biggest thing. Taking your lessons, learning, going forward in a game that means a boatload on a lot of different levels.
Johannes chimes in on the UEFA World Cup qualifiers, and he says they're not set up to create tougher competition. They are and always will be set up to give big nations a relatively easy pass to the World Cup or the Euros. UEFA recognizes they need the big nations in the tournament for money. And I think Concacaf does the same. They just approach it in a different way. But the gap in general in CONCACAF is so much bigger, I think they have to approach it in a different way. But it's still set up with the way it's structured, with going back to the hex idea. You know, I mean, they created a pathway, and even in what was supposed to be this current cycle that ended up getting changed because they couldn't get games played, it was an even easier pathway for the top teams just to go straight into the hex. I mean, think back to the two cycles that Jurgen Klinsmann did with the U.S. He had bumpy roads in that semifinal round, which was 6 games, and the U.S. was by far a favorite in those games. But he had bumpy roads, and, I mean, Alan Gordon had to bail him out in a game in, I think it was against St. Vincent and the Grenadines, if I remember right, ahead of the 2014 hex, or the 2013 hex to go to 2014. And he struggled again the next semifinal round. They got rid of the semifinal round to try to make it easier. The hex was, 3 out of 6 go, and 4 goes into a playoff, and somehow the U.S. still didn't qualify in 2018. Yeah, shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same idea. I think UEFA and CONCACAF have the same idea. They want the big teams to qualify, but there's such a gap in CONCACAF. They do need to play down a little bit between some of those smaller teams, and instead of, from a Grenada perspective, for example, like instead of them getting 2 games with the U.S. to see if they advance to get more games when they're not going to advance, let them play in a group with 3 teams around the same level, and they get competitive games. And then if they advance, okay, cool, then they get into the next round, or maybe they do play a bigger team and they might get knocked out. But they got more competitive games to build up the program.
Yes, exactly. And that, I think, is key to building up the game in general. If you can set things up to where you're going up against even competition, and they're competitive matches, and, I've talked about learning a lot this morning, but learning against that competition that's right there with you and what you need to continue to do to improve. Because in all honesty, when you get blown out, what does that give you? What does that give you? What do you learn from something like that? Okay, so yeah, we're not as good as the team that blew us out. Tell me something I don't already know. How do you grow and evolve unless you're playing competition that is right there with you? How do you all grow and evolve unless you're playing folks that are right there with you? Because playing those teams that are higher above, you get your brains beat in, it turns into a longer negative in that situation, because it's like, okay, well, what are we doing here over time if this continues to happen? I think that's the key, playing folks that are right there with you and learning together.
Rumor. Let's get into some of the rumors out there. And we're not talking about Carlos Tevez. No. Rabble and rumor are very different things, John. You know this.
Okay.
You didn't know that.
Rumor then.
Yes. Okay. Antonio Conte.
The two that hit at the right time.
Just smile and nod, John. Just smile and nod. Nobody can see you. Just say you're doing it. Antonio Conte is allegedly on the verge of signing for Tottenham Hotspur. Allegedly. He wants a lot of money. He would be paid the 3rd highest salary, according to reports, of managers in Europe. 20 million euro. He would be behind Diego Simeone, who gets paid a boatload of money. 43 million euro, according to L'Equipe in March. Pep Guardiola's second, making 22.6 million euro. Diego Simeone has the best agent in the history of agents. Conte would be 3rd. Mourinho was making 17 million euro at Spurs. Don't know how much he's going to make at Roma. Jurgen Klopp and Zinedine Zidane were on that top 5 list, according to L'Equipe in March. Don't know how much Carlo Ancelotti is going to make. It's not as much as Zinedine Zidane was making. That was one of the appealing parts of bringing him back. So Conte is on the verge of signing, according to AS in Spain. It looks like they're going to get it done. Real Madrid was like, nah, we're not going to pay you that much money, man, according to AS. Tottenham's like, sure, we'll pay you that much money. Why not?
$24.3 million US a year.
Why not? Ricky, sometimes these rumors kind of scare me. That's why we play that music. Sky Italia, though, this morning said that Antonio Conte was not convinced about the Tottenham job. He doesn't think he can win anything immediately, and a decision is expected by Monday. Now, also, DAZN had an interview with Antonio Conte, and he was asked where he sees himself in 5 years. He said, I'd like to have experiences abroad. I'd like to go to America. Let's bring Antonio Conte to MLS. I don't think he's going to make $20 million a year.
No.
The $24 million is the convincing part, J-Dub. The actual talent on the roster, I think, is the unconvincing part for Antonio Conte.
Yeah.
He likes the paycheck, but he likes trophies. And he doesn't feel like he's going to win any trophies with that squad. I don't know if he's necessarily wrong. I think he might be right. I just don't know if they get this done. I'm not convinced. Diego Simeone, speaking of him being paid €43 million to win a La Liga title. He is close to agreeing to a 2-year contract extension to 2024. Yeah, if they're going to pay me that much, yes, I will take it.
Paid a man.
Yes, I will take that. Maurizio Sarri is reportedly going to Lazio. Gazzetta dello Sport is reporting that it's a done deal, could be announced later today. There's also reports from Gazzetta and Tutto Sport and Corriere dello Sport that Serie A, they have their domestic TV deal with DAZN in Italy. However, there are fears that if they have games at the same time, the platform might not be able to handle that. So it looks like Serie A, and this is important for Paramount Plus, for example, who will have these games next year. The 10 games in a weekend of Serie A will be played at 10 different times. There will be no overlap of games in Italy. Saturday and in Atlanta time and normal time frames, they will be played at, if I do the math correctly, 8:30, 10:30, 12:30, and 2:45. Sunday, you'll have a very early game, which they usually do, at 6:30, and then 8:30, and then 10:30, and then 12:30 and 2:45. And the 10th game would be Monday at 2:45.
Yeah, the Monday Night Football.
That is the plan. But yes, they don't think they can have multiple games and have everybody watching on DAZN in Italy, so they're going to have games at different times. Jason Nick says, can you please not all log in at the same time? That's basically what Serie A is going to do.
Exactly it.
That is basically it.
Did you see the presser this morning with Agnelli with Juventus?
I've seen dumb things being said by Agnelli, yes.
The Super League was not an attempted coup d'etat, is what he said this morning.
They've said that consistently. That's not news.
If anything, it was a desperate cry for help against a system which is heading toward insolvency. So,
are there teams that are losing money? I mean, both can be true, that the Super League was a really stupid idea by some stupid people who were greedy, but it can also be true that the system of the business of soccer at the elite club level is not exactly perfect. Like, both can be true. And I think we probably should think about things in that way rather than, Agnelli said something, it's wrong. You know, I mean, everybody turned.
It's not mutually exclusive. Both things can be accurate.
Yes. It turned to where everybody thought Alexander Ceferin was the white knight in shining armor, and UEFA's not that, and FIFA's not that. So let's realize that even though these people were misguided and did things in a horribly dumb way, that there was a little bit of validity to some of the things that they had to say. And it's something that they need to figure out because, you know, I mean, numbers are coming out from teams reporting their financials from the year that, or the season that had 3 months affected by COVID, and everybody lost a bunch of money. Now, and this is not just an Italy-Spain thing, Danny. I mean, this is worldwide, but all over Europe, where there's a lot of big clubs that lost a lot of money. There are some clubs that were in a position to be able to handle that. A lot of clubs who are in a position to be able to handle that, and there were some who are not, and maybe they got greedy because they needed to fix some of their mistakes. Spending is going to have to come down. There's just no way around it. The players are not going to be able to make as much money as they are making. The agents are not going to be able to make as much money as they are making. There are too many clubs that don't make enough money to pay those things. It's just a fact. So, and then the flip side is if that doesn't happen immediately, there are going to have to be clubs and leagues and entities that find new revenue sources because they're going to have them to keep doing what they're doing. There's lots of things that go into it, but I hope that they will all stop their stupid posturing and actually sit down and talk about what's good for the game going forward and try to correct some of the incompetence burned 100%. And also look at what can make the game better for, the future. Because it's a must. It's just a must for me. Couple things about Chelsea that have popped up this morning. Tommy Tuchel has a new contract extended through June of 2024, and Thiago Silva's contract was extended. That was announced just a few minutes ago. So Chelsea is keeping the band together to defend their Champions League title and try to win a Premier League title.
Yeah, and a full year under Tommy Tuchel. I think that, it's going to be really interesting to see how things are at the top of the table in the Premier League next year. With Tuchel getting the contract extension, I don't think he sees the end of said contract, but I think that next season with Manchester City, with what folks are anticipating out of Manchester United, and they want to add 4 players now, and Chelsea with getting the band back together and keeping Tuchel there with a full season there, it's going to be pretty hot and heavy at the top.
Bernd Dursberger, hot take of the day. Tuchel will never see the end of this contract.
Yes, agreed.
There are a lot of people who would agree with that hot take.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would too, based off past history.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Man, the rose is blooming rather nicely for Tommy Tuchel these days.
And once again, I will give you full, unadulterated credit for seeing the bracket in Champions League for what it was. As I was sitting there and thinking about Manchester City, you saw the bracket in Chelsea, and I tip my hat to you, sir.
J-Dub says, does anyone call him Tuchel Two Shoes? I don't think so. We tried to get a Tommy Too Cool for school. Too Cool for School going. Jarrett tried that one. It didn't stick either. So, Tommy Tuchel, though. Tommy Tuchel did the job. Johannes would like to extend a personal and public apology to Tuchel. Didn't believe Chelsea was any good all year. I was proven incorrect. Tuchel is good. The performance he had as a manager, I mean, he fixed the mistakes and took them all the way. You beat Pep 3 times in a row at the end. They probably shouldn't have actually got back into the Champions League based on the season because they did throw it away at the end, but they won the final of Champions League. I mean, what Tuchel did was pretty amazing for a team that was pretty bad defensively previously, and he fixed it quickly. Now, can he keep the relationships together? Because that's always proven to be the issue. We'll have to find out. Nick Leafy comes in yelling. Tommy 2 times is what Perfect Tommy wants to go with. Danny DDT, one of our resident Liverpool fans, says, imagine not mentioning the guaranteed Prem champions next season, Liverpool. Come on now. Oh,
hey, if they get healthy, they'll be a part of the discussion too, Danny.
They will be part of the discussion. Manchester City and Chelsea will be part of that discussion. It will be a 3-way dance this time around, I think. Somebody else will hang around. I'm not convinced that Manchester United will do the things that they need to do to be in that conversation. I think they're playing for 4th. Tommy with a question, going back to what we were talking about before, with these issues and what Agnelli was talking about and the idea that yes, there are problems with the sports business at the elite level in this game and things that need to change, but people aren't looking at changing them in the right way. He said, what's the tipping point across sports? I think the tipping point is a major club in the world going bust.
Yes.
And it might not actually happen. Like Barcelona is about as close to going bust as you can right now, but they keep finding a way. Inter is about as close to going bust as you can be right now without doing it. They keep finding some short-term money to keep this going. Maybe they end up bailing themselves out, but I think that's the tipping point, is a major club going bankrupt and truly not being able to pay their obligations. I mean, Inter hasn't been able to pay their salaries for a few months. Like, that's shocking right now. And when you're talking about the level of revenue and different things. I think that's the tipping point. I think somebody completely going bust, a major club doing it. We'll see. Chris Ashley is possibly imbibing early this morning. Possibly. Bielsa takes Leeds to the top 4. # book it.
Wow, okay. Bold predictions. Well done, Chris.
Chris Ashley, if Leeds finishes in the top 4 next year.
Here we go.
I will. What will I do for you?
You want to wear the Leeds jersey with the strongman crest?
No. Nobody made that thing. And I have no problem with Leeds. I don't have any hatred for Leeds. Wearing a Leeds jersey is fine. I'm not that guy. I will. Chris, if Leeds gets into the top 4, I will buy you a case of your favorite beverage of the beer or cider persuasion. A case of it, if that happens.
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in there with you.
Okay.
We can either go halvesies on it, or and it could be 2 cases.
Okay. Burn says he'll never apologize to Tommy Tuchel. I love it. I love some of the hatred for this stuff. Okay. Yes, I am a man of my word on these things. Nick Alifi knows. He got a case of, was it white chocolate Reese's? Because of stupid Andrea Pirlo. That's why you lose your job, Pirlo. You cost me a case of Reese's. It's absurd.
And go to Everton.
No, he's not going to Everton. Pirlo's going to go to his winery for a year or so. And that's what's going to happen.
Sassuolo?
No, I don't think he's going to go to Sassuolo. I think he's going to take a year off. Thank you, Johannes. This has been talked about a little bit. It was on my list. This was rumored last night, and it's sounding like it is progressing a little bit further. The Copa America that is going to be hosted in Brazil, Chile, their national team, Chile has said that they've been questioning playing in it or going to play in the event. The World Cup qualifiers, different conversation. The Copa America that was supposed to be in Argentina, Colombia, then supposed to be in Argentina, now it's in Brazil. The Chilean squad was like, I don't know if we're going to do this thing. Brazil is now saying they are not going to play in it. And this had come out yesterday in South American media. Now AS is reporting that the Brazilian squad has made the decision that they will not play in the Copa America that is being hosted in Brazil. AS yesterday had the piece when it first came up because their head coach, Tite, said that he couldn't guarantee that the players were going to play. He told reporters, we have a very clear opinion about the Copa America after seeing the entire chronological sequence of events. Juninho and I spoke with the president and told him our opinion. We asked the players to work focused solely on preparing for the game against Ecuador, which is tonight, World Cup qualifying. They accepted this request and asked us for a conversation with the president to tell him what their opinion is, because all the players are very clear about what they want. They spoke directly with the president and the coaching staff. From there, their position is very clear. We want to tell the fans what they think, but not now, so that we can prioritize playing well and winning the game against Ecuador. It's a World Cup qualifier. I said, this is our goal, and at the end of these FIFA matches, we will tell everyone to clarify our thoughts. You have my commitment that at the end of these games, we will tell publicly what the position is. So he's basically saying that yesterday that, yeah, these guys have already made up their mind. But he didn't want to officially say that because they have qualifiers to play before that. He said, all this has a negative effect in the face of the game with Ecuador, but we have to have the greatness to overcome this moment and be able to play well and win the game. Adversities happen and has hurt us, but it is up to all of us as a team to be able to filter all that and play a great game and achieve the result that people deserve. Now it's bubbling up even more that Brazil is not going to play in the Copa America, or at least the European players are saying they don't want to play. I really wonder if it's going to get to the point that CONMEBOL is like, well, you have to field a team, and they have to turn to third, fourth, fifth, sixth string, whatever. I don't know.
Right.
This is a mess, and they're running out of time to deal with it because the thing starts in like 2 weeks, not even. It's a problem.
It's like 9 days.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. The other thing we haven't dug into deep, we talked about the results from South America, but the game from Argentina with Chile, it was hosted in Argentina. It was the first for the national team since the death of Diego Maradona. The team came out wearing shirts all honoring that. I think they were trying to get approval from FIFA, but they didn't get it in time. They just said, whatever, we're going to do it. Fine us, we don't care. Messi said it was a special match given that it was the first without Diego. They were supposed to play in March, but those games didn't happen because of the pandemic. So they did unveil a statue of Maradona outside of the stadium where this was played. It's all kinds of like everything in South America is just a mess right now. With this bubbling up more and more about Brazil saying they're not going to play in the Copa America, and now they're playing tonight at 8:30 our time against Ecuador in a qualifier. Brazil's in a good position in qualification. They're not in a position that I think they have to worry if they are distracted tonight. Ecuador would be in a great position to take advantage of that. Then they'd be at the top of the table with Brazil on 12 points through 5 games. Argentina's on 11. Those 3 are in good shape, really, no matter what, because then it's down to 7 points into the Paraguay, Uruguay, Colombia group. There's a lot of cushion. So, Brazil doesn't want to drop points tonight. They're at home. They should win. They are favored to win, I'm assuming. I don't know what the numbers are, and that might be one to watch if you like your juice boxes. But it's a distraction potentially, and if it continues to be more of an issue, it's a huge distraction.
Checking juice boxes right now. Brazil is a minus 625.
Wow.
Draw is a plus 635, and Venezuela is a plus 1544 in the composite.
Kind of crazy if they're playing Venezuela because they're not playing Venezuela.
Oh, that's on the 13th. That's true.
That's Copa America.
All right, so let's go to a different category. Brazil's a minus 417 against Ecuador.
There we go.
And draws a plus 492, and Ecuador's a plus 1137. So there you go.
Oh, if you're feeling squirrely with juice boxes, you might want to look at how distracted Brazil could be over the rest of the day, and then maybe think about the different El Tri of Ecuador pulling an upset tonight. Who knows? Stranger things have happened, but as this continues to get louder with Brazil potentially not playing in the tournament that potentially their country is hosting, this could get weird.
Yeah.
This could get very weird. Jarrett is very sad because Diego Laxalt, his agent, has confirmed that the player will not stay at Celtic. Might not be back in Milan either, Nicolai, if you don't get excited. He might go to Dynamo Moscow instead.
And I saw that there's the possibility, or at least let's put it, that John Kennedy could be the solution to the Celtics UEFA coaching license headache with Ange Postecoglou.
What?
Where he would end up being like on the bench at the same time, because Rangers did the same thing with Gerrard when he was appointed back in 2018, where Michael Beale, who had a UEFA Pro license, meant that Gerrard could get the gig. He was given dispensation that he started working on his own at the time, and so folks are suggesting that Kennedy could be on the touchline with Postecoglou if Postecoglou doesn't have his
who are these
license in
folks
time.
that are suggesting this?
Let's see. From the Daily Record, it is former defender Mark Wilson as discussing it.
So somebody who's not with the club.
Right. Currently, not on the roster currently, but according to the Daily Record, that is an idea that at least one former defender has floated.
Yeah, I have a statement.
Well, Lottie frickin' da!
That's a really dumb idea. That's a really dumb idea.
Well, maybe they could just get a guy who's got his pro license,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like this guy isn't established as a professional manager. I don't know what the full licensing process is in UEFA, but somebody who has worked consistently in Asia at the highest levels of the game should probably be okay to manage a team in Scotland, and UEFA should be able to sign off on that, I would think. That's a little foolish.
Yeah, the Celtic has apparently applied for what is referred to as a recognition of competence, and given that to UEFA, and UEFA acknowledged to Sky that the procedure has been initiated with a recognition of competence, and that the process could take several weeks.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day. The problem that Celtic can run into is if, for whatever reason, they come back and say, yeah, that's a nice application. Here it is crumpled up in a trash can. Then what? Because you're going to be closer and closer to the time that the team needs to come together and prepare for qualifiers to get into the Champions League and all kinds of stuff. All right, we're going to finish with this. A couple of things. Juan Arango is reporting via ESPN Brazil that the president of the Brazilian Federation will have a meeting with the players to try to convince them to play in the Copa America. Also, players are reaching out to friends on other teams to support their initiative to not play. So this is going to be loads of fun in South America as we get closer to the Copa America that might or might not happen.
Woof.
Roy Nemmer in Argentina, and this is from Diario AS again. Brazilian players have made the decision not to play. They're apparently contacting other players from different national teams to see where they stand. There's that whole WhatsApp group that is very famous from the classic front line, formerly of Barcelona, with Neymar, with Lionel Messi, and with Luis Suarez. If those three made a decision that, we don't want to play in the Copa America, Copa America's not happening.
No, they'd be like, no, we're out.
Yeah, it's not happening. Well, if they say no, then everybody else is going to say no, and CONMEBOL is going to have some problems. So stay tuned on that. We'll keep you posted on all of it. Tonight, 6 o'clock, the final, the Copa de la Liga. Colón is playing Racing. It is at 6 on Paramount Plus and on Fanatis. Paramount Plus in English, Fanatis in Spanish. Colón could win their first title ever. I don't think they have anything. They were in the Copa Sudamericana final in 2019. They lost to Independiente del Valle. Their honors as a club, they have a Primera B title from 1965, and they have a made-up tournament in 1950, the Torneo de Honor. It was organized by the Argentine Federation after the second division regular season ended. It was basically a second division like league cup. That's all they've ever won. That's it. And they have a chance. This is not a league title. It is a cup title, but it is still a national championship. And Cologne has that opportunity. Racing has won many, many things. But Cologne has been the best team. Cologne and Pulga have been the best team in this tournament. They haven't had to deal with Copa Sudamericana this season. They haven't had to deal with Copa Libertadores. They have handled everything. They've been the best team. They're in the final. Pulga has been the best player in the tournament. It would really be fitting to see him get a chance to lift a trophy because he's never had that opportunity and his club's never had that opportunity. And very cool story. So that's at 6 o'clock, Paramount Plus in English, Fanatis in Spanish. You might want to watch for a bat signal. There could be a watch along for that one because that could be a fun one to keep an eye on. So stay tuned. With all of that said, we're going to go for the day. I'm going to be on 92.9 with the midday show at 12:20 to break down everything in the soccer world with Andy and Randy. We might talk a little bit of Hawks, too. We are prone to do that. The Twos Sunday at 7:30, ESPN Plus. If you can't join us in Kennesaw, GA, Lou City come into town. Should be a really good game for Jack Collison's debut as the manager of the Twos. Tomorrow night, and I'll post the links to the stream, there's a big NPSL game down in McDonough as the Georgia Revolution, who have a number of former Atlanta United Academy players in their group this year, are playing the Georgia Storm, who have a couple of former Atlanta United players, Atlanta United and Atlanta United 2 players, and Andrew Carlton and Kevin Barajas. The two top teams in the NPSL Southeast Conference, they're playing in McDonough at the old Henry County High School. I'm going to be on the call for that one, filling in. It is the 100th NPSL game in Georgia Revolution's history. They're one of the longer-running NPSL teams in the region. So that should be a really interesting game. The Revs are 5-0. The Storm are 3-1, and their only losses to the Revolution in their opener. So should be a really good one. I believe it'll be on Mike Kuju, and I'll share the links on my Twitter at Longshoe and other places. So if you can't join us down in McDonough for that one, you can watch. And it should be a very fun game to watch. Two really good Summer League teams in the NPSL battling out tomorrow. So I got a game tomorrow. I got a game Sunday. Fun weekend with lots of soccer, even though the first team's not playing.
Yeah, and it's going to be. This is the fun part of the year, where you've got all the multiple competitions going on. You've got multiple levels here in the States going on, and NPSL's off and running, and our friends up in Boone, North Carolina at Appalachian FC, they're off and running too in their first season. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on. So if there's a game in your neighborhood right now, either watch it, or if you can take the time and do it safely, go watch the games in person as well, because it's a fun time to do it. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, games all over in the UPSL and the NPSL, USL League 2, WPSL, UWS. The Atlanta Panthers are getting underway this weekend as well. We shared that on our Instagram. We'll share it on Twitter as well. There's a bunch of games all over the metro area this weekend. So even though Atlanta United's off, the action continues. So support your local teams if you can. Be on the lookout for a bat signal later today for a watch-along for that Copa de la Liga final, and we'll be talking to you all weekend before we're back on Monday. Y'all have a good one. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.